Welcome to the Relationship Reset Network, where we talk about how to break relationship patterns, things that's related to different relationships like God, self, and others. We all have things that we need to work on in our relationship. We have gaps that we need to fill. So, with me today, I have LaToya Scott. She is an life coach and she has a nonprofit called Juice Goals Recreation Center. She is a an author, so we're gonna talk about her book she wrote and delve into that during the interview. But Latoya, tell them where you're from and what's the reason for your passion with the nonprofit.
I'm from Illinois, out a little suburb outside of Chicago. The reason that I have a passion about the Juice Coast Recreation Center is because I have a autistic son. So he was the reason that we decided to start a nonprofit organization to help families like ours.
Okay, and so the passion behind that drive comes from a problem that you had to solve, correct? What was that problem?
So we were attending therapies, and five or six of them at a time. There was ABA therapy, speech therapy, OT therapy, feeding therapy as well. So we got so tired of just trying to make it out here with all of the co-payments, the deductibles, and all of that kind of stuff. It was so expensive. So I wanted to help other families that would be able to thrive and not, strive for that or needing that extra income to do so. So my organization helps families receive those funds to be able to attend those therapies through scholarships that we create.
So it sounds like the therapies cost a whole lot to for families, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So as ABA therapy, and it ran anywhere from 3,000 to like $5,000 a year. So that's a lot of money, out of pocket. So we had to constantly save for that and just strive to meet those needs as fast as we could. So doing all of that was really hard. It was difficult. So not knowing we could do it or how we could survive through it, was birthed out where the company was birthed. So we was able to start an organization that will help other families.
Okay. So what are some of the other programs that you have available within your nonprofit organization?
Yes. So we have programs for OT, occupational therapy, of course, ABA therapy, speech therapy. We help as well with that. And also, we also do physical therapy. So that's kind of like a new one that we want to expand on because there are families that are in need of that type of therapy. We also do caregiver support group. We have that every Tuesday, every third Tuesday of the month. And this month, I believe it is April 21st, is when our next one is. So that allows parents, caregivers to come on and just get strength and support by talking to a couple of coaches, ABA therapists, regular therapists that we have on a panel and ask free questions and give advice, advocating advice, different things that they need, just to make it through and survive.
Okay. And so how important is the caregivers group when it comes to relationship within the um, neurodivergent community?
It's very, very important. It's essential. Relationships, it's already a complicated thing. So you have to be intentional about creating that space between you and your partner. And, autism or any other type of diagnosis can actually create that stress in that relationship. So having an outlet to come in and talk about it, the things that are on the table that's bothering you and stressful and that kind of can pull at your marriage is important because if you don't pour into it or into your relationship, then it's going to dwindle down. So it's very
And, s-
important.
and so the caregivers group kind of help navigate that for
Yes.
families where they get them advice on how to deal with, fostering their relationship, although they have to, watch over their child and have to worry about school and all of these. It's so many things, layers, so many layers that you
Yes.
wonder how do a marriage survive without help? And it's so good that you're doing something like that because it's so needed. I know you have a passion for life coaching, that particular community as well. And so, what do you find the most in your life coaching experience? What do you find that people come to you mostly for?
Um, a lot of times it's accepting the new normal of being in this autistic community. And then when we add in the relationship part of it, understanding how to navigate throughout that. What does that look like for you and your partner? It's not going to look like a traditional, maybe setting for original families. Maybe it's, hey, husband, you come home and I'll start dinner and you take over the little one for a while and then we'll switch. Maybe you can do the dishes and I'll take over. And then at the end of the night, we can meet again. So it looks different for everybody. Sometimes it may be not being able to have different dinner together because of the situation. And if that's the case, we'll make sure that you are cultivating your relationship by at least having some type of alone time that's intentional. That's the most important part. Scheduling that intentional time because it is very stressful.
And so, how important is acceptance?
Acceptance is very important, and it's important because it's the foundation. So when you don't accept, I like to say the new kind of norm for yourself or your family, you're not going to be able to navigate this journey. Acceptance brings the ability to be able to move forward. So it's not a limitation of what's been diagnosed. It's simply, okay, how do we move forward from this point? Where do we go from here? And what does that look like for our family? It looks different for everyone's family. That can simply mean I'm accepting this as of right now, but it also may look different how you are able to accept it. It may take you months to accept it. It may take you a year or two, and that is okay as long as you are on the road to accepting and accepting the process of it, and getting yourself some help, your relationship some help, and your family some help, and along with the neurodivergent person that you're trying to help. So it's all about helping the entire family, whether that's holistically, coaching, going to a therapist or whatever that looks like. But just understanding we can't move forward until we acknowledge this.
And how was the journey for you in acknowledging and accepting that this was the calling for your life?
Yes. Wow. That journey was really interesting. I grieved a total of 3 days, which in some cases is kind of short. But after 3 days of grieving that, me and my ex husband at the time, we became on one accord, and we knew that we had to get on one accord, and we had to do something. Sitting back, doing nothing was not an option. That was being
Okay.
defeated. So once we got on one accord, we stood our ground. That meant advocating the same way, or making sure that our son was looked after and nothing went wrong with him, whether it was daycare or we're out in the public, just speaking up. We definitely did that, and making sure our family understood our ground, where we came from, and that everyone knew, hey, this is different. A new norm is, we're not able to raise Julian the traditional way, whether that's, I told you 3 times to come here. We don't do that because, as we know, with autistic individuals, it may take 10 seconds or 30 seconds for a child to process that. I need you to come here. So just different things like that. We were on one accord when it came to that type of stuff.
Oh, that is awesome. It takes a team, it takes a village, and if you align, it
Yes,
makes it work. Alignment
yes,
is so huge. And so let's talk about this book you have. I want to
yes.
talk about it because you have some very, I mean, the book is amazing for what you're doing in the autistic community or neurodivergent community, I would say. I think what you're
Thank
doing is wonderful because the way you describe it is so,
you.
it changes your perspective. So let's talk about that for a minute. Tell the audience, hold your book up and tell the audience about your book.
So this is called the Beauty Within Autism. It's a 30-day journal for caregivers and parents, and not even just caregivers and parents, but also anyone who wants to understand autism in a deeper way, in the way that God sees them. That's pretty much what this book is about. It's that journey. You know, autism is looked upon as a limitation and not as something that can be looked as beautiful. And I do understand, I want to be sensitive about this as well. There are also families that are suffering with profound autism, which is a deeper version of autism where there's a lot more involved and it's not as easy to see autism as beautiful. So I just prayed and I asked God to show me my son through his eyesight. I wanted to see
Mm,
my son how God saw him. And I prayed about it and I just started journaling how God would tell me, you know, this is how I see him. And it opened up a lot for me. And through my eyes, I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. And I wanted the world to see this. Like, you know, autism is not a problem. If you look at it in a different perspective, and it's all about perspective, look at it a different
yes.
way and how God creates us and how, you know, it maybe is something simple as the children lining up the toys across the floor. What do they see? And I've learned through that by watching my son and praying and fasting that when they see toys lined up against, you know, the floor, they see order.
Mm. And God is a
So
God of order.
he's a God of order. So who wouldn't know anything like that, you know, unless you get some type of revelation, but they see order. They see different perspectives that we don't see all the time. So that's what this book is mainly about, getting out of ourselves and being able to tap into something deeper that God has created. Because first and foremost, he's created all of us. We all come from him, you know, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, you come from the Lord. So, with that being said, look at how he sees our children and our adults that are on the spectrum, and it will change your life.
Absolutely, because it's it's interesting because it when you named it the beauty of autism, when you remove the stigma aspect of it, it's a way of doing that. When you said the beauty of autism, it makes us want to engage and look at this because you know it like you said, for someone who's dealing with severe behavioral aspects of it,
Mm,
may I I believe that book would also encourage them to look at it, not the behavior, but the actual person.
yes,
And I saw that's what you was kind of going after. Is not I'm not minimizing what you're going through, but if you could see it through the eyes of God, it will help you. You know, it will lower the level of your anxiety when you see the behavior aspect of it.
yes, and
And because sometimes it's that temperature that's going on when when the behavior is out of order, you don't meet the temperature. You have to stay calm, right?
yes,
And it kind of
yes.
puts you in a posture of doing that when you can see the beauty in it, even though it looks so horrible when the behavior pops up.
Yes. And the other thing about the behavior aspect of that, you have to tap into why that behavior is happening. There's something that's behind the behavior that is not being stated. There's a need there. And if you just kind of step back and look at it and say, okay, what is this need? What are you needing from me? You'll be able to see this is not a behavior. This is a way of communication. I'm trying to communicate that I need something and I can't quite get it across yet. And you just kind of step back and position yourself and humble yourself and say, okay, what are we looking at here? And that changes the game. And so, you know, even when Julie and I are out and, you know, he goes into a behavior, I stop and say, okay, what's going on here. This is deeper than what I'm seeing on the outside, the surface here. And when we do that, it's amazing how God would speak to you and say, hey, it's this. He's wanting this. And when you fulfill that need, the behavior stops. And it's like, okay, I'm ready now. Oh, that's what you wanted. You wanted to be able to scoot the buggy, but I said no because I wanted to push the buggy so we can get out of here faster. Well, mom's patience needs to come a little bit stronger and say, okay, you know what? It's not about getting out of this store fast right now. It's about you want to push the buggy because you want to feel like you're a big boy. Let's do that for you.
Right.
Patience, humility. That's it.
Yes. And that's what you and that's what your son taught you through the book as you wrote every day.
Yes. Yes.
It taught you to be a better parent. How is that?
Wow. The patience. I always say this journey requires patience. If you don't have patience, if you don't want patience, then this journey is not going to go well for you because patience is the key. You cannot do anything in a hurry or in a angry state or just being tired. And that's why again you have to do caregivers, some kind of caregiver support for yourself because you do get tired. And in order to rejuvenate and pour back into you, you have to do something. So it's not their fault that we're tired. We don't blame them. We need to be able to pour back into us. So patience allows us to be able to hear the noise and the silence behind the noise. So, and what I mean by that is hearing what is not being said, hearing what is not being communicated at all. And that's via pointing, however, the AAC devices that you may have for the individual. But, you need to be able to be patient enough to hear the language that's not being stated at all. And
And
that's
I
the
like how, oh, go ahead. And I like how you brought out in your book every intricate detail of some of the behavior things that popped up, but how you allow God to speak to you through each one, which is such a blessing. I think that that's going to help so many people because some people have a hard time, like you said, accepting the diagnosis. But looking at the book, that perspective can truly make all the difference in the world. Why do you think they have such a hard time accepting it's their child, they birthed the child? What is it? What's the part that's hard to accept?
it's the grieving of the diagnosis of what never could will be, or the different milestones that the child will not be able to meet.
Mm,
And it's that what you're grieving. And for example, by that, when I first got the diagnosis, I'm like, my kid will never be able to talk because he was nonverbal at the time.
mm,
He would be never be able to communicate with me on any type of level as we were told at the time.
okay.
And that's not so. So that grievance is uh, a big game changer when it comes to diagnosis. And then sometimes it's not wanting to see what's in front of you to face it. You just don't feel like doing
Okay.
it. You don't feel
Yeah.
like dealing with it, so to speak.
And I'm sure they grieve in the child that they thought would be.
Yes, they thought that they would have, and it's not so. That right now it may not look like it. That's not to say that will it can't change, because that can definitely change. I always say we can always help start them out early. Early intervention is the key, to get that help going so that they can thrive in life. And that's why I'm so big on those therapies, because those therapies changed my life. Without those therapies, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't, have the patience and know what to do when we're in certain situations. And it's important to accept, the diagnosis, however that looks. Sit with it. If you have to sit with it for a month, but look, when you sit with it, make sure you're sitting with it with purpose and not defeat, with hope and faith and not defeat, with a plan in place and not defeat. That's the part where I teach a lot of my families. We're going to sit
Okay.
with it, but we're going to make sure we're moving forward and not backwards.
Okay. I like that. So thank you so much for sharing what you do in the book that you recently published. That I will put the links. And if you have a child that's neurodivergent and you want to get some help as far as like the coaching aspect, she is a great coach for that because she's walking through it and she's called to this particular group. And if you want to join her caregivers group, I'll put that in the chat as in the video as well, because that group is makes all the difference in the world when you have a place where you could just vent and not be judged. You could be transparent without losing credibility. That's the group she has. And then if you want the book, oh my God, if you have a child or family member that is struggling with autism, I advise everyone to pick up this book because I promise you, it will help you be the village. It will help you be the support that they need, and it will help the parents look at their child in a different way. So thank you, LaToya, for coming on. And also, we will have a donation tab link in there is because a dollar would help so much, can go so far. You have no
Yes.
idea. Anything can help these families get the help that they need. You see the cost, you see the vision. It's a huge, big vision. If you want to join that journey and support it, please do reach out. I mean, check out the link and you can look through and see the amazing things that they're doing for families right now currently, but it takes a village. It takes a
Yes.
village. It takes support. It takes, unfortunately, finances. So definitely click the link and donate whatever God put on your heart. And thank you so much for listening. And thanks, Toya, for coming on my relationship reset group network, being a part of it. Thank you so much for that.